What's a hack in your industry that customers aren't supposed to find out? Story 1. When I worked as a pharmacy tech, I spent a lot of time calling insurance companies and waiting on hold while the world burned around me. One time I got impatient with a voice recognition bot because it kept hearing background noise and made selections impossible, so I started cursing it out. Turns out if you say the F word a few times in a short span, the bot recognizes you as an angry customer and will switch you to a representative real quick. I did this multiple times to a lot of strange looks from my coworkers until I explained the hack. Quick edit: since I'm getting a lot of the same responses, I now know that you can spam 0 or to get the same results. It's a feature being phased out in places. Shouting representative or operator also works. Story 2. Lean into the bite. I work in pediatrics and we're retaught that if a child bites you, lean into it, push whatever part of you they're biting further into their mouth, because their automatic reaction will be to open their mouth and the risk of them breaking your skin is greatly diminished. Source: I was just bitten at work. Edit a word in grammar. Also, howdy is my most upvoted comment about being bitten at work. Story 3. I worked at a restaurant, and one time the chef burned the applesauce that was supposed to be served with the chop. He put it on the menu as smoked applesauce and people loved it. Story 4. Not sure if your homeowner's insurance will cover something. Apply this one simple rule: was the damage caused by a sudden and one-time occurrence? If the answer is yes, 99 of the time you're covered. If the answer is no, 99 of the time you're not covered. This advice applies to the US. Story 5. When I worked in a hotel as a night porter, the room cost was totally reliant if you were A or not. I obviously couldn't just give rooms away, but I could pretty much knock off 50. One day a very tired woman came in with her baby and I couldn't get the payment to go through it all, so I did give it to her for nothing, just had to make sure she was out before 9 a.m. and I cleaned it myself. Thank you for all the upvotes, awards and kind words. Story 6. When a car salesman offers you a premium car care package, don't buy it. It's a scam. Say you're buying a new car and I offer you the premium car care package. IDLL only cost you X amount of money per month, but every time you come to the dealership, you get premium car wash. We hose it down. Not a proper car wash, interior detailing and rejuvenation. We use compressed air to make the dust go away. Sometimes a man uses a wet paper towel. Functions check and clock synchronization check if all the lights work. Heater and AC work and set up the clock if it's wrong. Summer and winter inspection and free wiper fluid refill. Only done once per season. Check tire tread, visually check tire pressure, look at temperature gauge to make sure car isn't overheating and add water in the summer. Tiny amount of wiper fluid in winter. Visually inspect brake discs to see they are not scratched by worn-out brake pads. Assistance: when you're on the move you call us and then we can call a tow truck for you, at your expense, only possible during business hours basically. We charge for simple things you can do yourself. Also, if a car dealership sells you a used car and they told you it has been fully serviced, take it to your local mechanic and have it serviced properly. Story 7. Most industries have retention teams because it costs 10x more to get a new customer than it costs to keep one you have. So if you call up and complain, threaten to cancel every other time they raise your rates, they'll probably give you the introductory rate. Just be aware you might have to switch. Edit: threaten to cancel added. Edit 2. Another thing I'm seeing a lot is people getting shut down with no explanation. People hang up and call back. Just say you got disconnected. You might have better luck with another operator. Yes, they take notes, but some reps are more empowered than others. Also feel free to escalate. Make sure you know how long you've been a customer and how long you've been up to date on your bill. Story 8. If you're nice to my receptionist, I will find a way to squeeze you onto my schedule. If you're AB, then you can have whatever the next available appointment is. If you make the office staff cry, you get a certified letter firing you from the practice. Story 9. This was 6 to 7 years ago, so may not be relevant, but when I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, the higher-ups were so tunnel-visioned on positive customer reviews that if there was any problem at all we would write off anything from gas to whole days of rentals. We had a few repeat customers that would catch on and habitually complain about dumb to get parts of the bill discounted. Only a rating of completely satisfied counted, and it was tied to bonus and promotion, so a huge incentive to make people happy. Story 10. If you use Libby to download ebooks from your library to your Kindle, you can turn it to airplane mode and keep the books as long as you want. The next person in line is not affected. Edit: because not everyone wants to illegally download ebooks from sketchy servers in Tuvalu. It's not any easier than what I suggested. Story 11. I used to work in the floral industry. Don't call a large national florist. Look up a local florist in your recipient's area and call them directly. Most have websites to help you choose, and you'll save money on delivery and service fees, which can go towards a nicer arrangement. Also, unless you order flowers regularly, the membership loyalty program is a scam and hard to cancel. Story 12. I work in IT and can confidently say that providing bribery in terms of food or snack will 100% get your issue taken care of faster and will help you jump the line in the ticket queue. Story 13. If you know you're shipping something within a few hours drive of you, always pay for the cheaper shipping option. The premium shipping option is just a markup. If you know you're sending something close by, it will arrive the same day regardless. Story 14. Dog trainer. This is a hack we want people to understand. One reason we can get your dog to do something so fast is because we use a high rate of reinforcement. Example: I'm training your dog to walk on leash without pulling, and we practice in your driveway. I feed the dog 20 tiny pieces of food by my knee as we walk to the end of the driveway. The first time a client tries the exercise they may use 5. The mechanics of the exercise look easy, but it takes time to get used to, and when people are practicing on their own they do other things, instead of focus on the exercise. They forget how often they need to reinforce the dog for doing the right thing. If they do the exercise for 2 minutes during each walk, with a high rate of reinforcement roar, that may be all it takes, and once the dog starts to learn, you can gradually slow down the roar. Story 15 Academic. Here to get a PDF of a paper you can usually email the author and ask for one. The times I've tried this they've been happy to share, after checking if it's available on of course. Don't mess around with formatting your references manually, use something like to automate the whole process. Story 16 If you buy flights through Spirit at the airport, one of the random fees, it's called the user fee or something like that, doesn't apply, so they cost like half as much. I've flown round trip to Chicago for 30, Houston for 45, Miami for 50, etc. Story 17 If you or a teenager you know are admitted to a name brand expensive rich college and their financial aid package isn't enough, write them and ask them for more money. Mention the other schools you were admitted to and that you received strong financial packages from them. Do not mention specific numbers unless it's a named scholarship, e.g. presidential or provost. At least 5 of my students this year got between 10 to 20k extra in scholarship money just by soliciting for it. Story 18 Press 2 for Spanish. 90% of the time the people manning the Spanish lines are bilingual, and the wait times aren't nearly as long. This is more like an unethical life hack, but it is true they would prefer you not find out about it. Story 19 Computer engineer here. We ship so many products that have broken features. The product is fused at the factory to disable features that just didn't bake fully before we needed to ship. Every product I ever worked on has a half dozen bugs that we could have fixed if only we had more time and money. Eventually you have to say it's good enough and ship something to make money. Story 20 Premium tire filling using nitrogen instead of atmospheric air has almost no research to back it up. There is basically no difference between the two. It's just a way for tire shops to charge you an extra 50. I must now add that I am well aware of the differing expansion factors of air and pure nitrogen, and that nitrogen can be beneficial in certain applications. However, the difference is negligible for most people who do not drive race cars or fly commercial airplanes. That is why I commented. Most people are unaware of this and do not need to pay for pure nitrogen in their 05 shitbox Civic. Rant over. Story 21 Name brand packaged salads and generic supermarket branded packaged salads come off the exact same production line, using the exact same raw materials. The difference is just the packaging. Story 22 In medicine, if you tell your primary that your previous PCP ordered a test, gave you a medication, placed a referral, etc., and that you need to have it represcribed ordered again, you can get your primary to order or at least consider ordering near anything. At least if it's not a controlled substance or an expensive unusual diagnostic study. The problem is that offices absolutely at transferring their records to each other, and confirming that story takes a huge amount of time. For example, if you have knee pain and tell me that your primary diagnosed you with a specific knee issue years back and that you went to PT and it felt better last time, and am sitting in your chart not able to find any record of that, will I spend 10 minutes of time trying to hunt down previous records to confirm this history, obtain reports from physical therapy about the specific exercises you were doing and any imaging studies you had and whatever else? Will I have you come in for what, as far as I can tell, is an appointment to reassess a known diagnosis that someone else already appropriately diagnosed and treated? Or will I click a button that takes 5 seconds to get you the appointment with PT that you want that solved your issue last time, completely unaware that the history I was given was completely fabricated? The reality for something benign like a visit to PT is that there's just not enough time to do anything besides send that order and move on. Story 23 Just ask customer service for a replacement. Doesn't matter if you didn't buy an extended warranty. Doesn't matter if there was no warranty to begin with. A lot of companies just want to resolve customer complaints quickly and will give you free replacements on request. Story 24 Good audio engineers will have fader snobs that don't do anything. When the talent asks for a change that's goofy or makes no sense, well, adjust that phantom and watch them nod their head in approval of their amazing idea. Story 25 Making an application run in multiple platforms, Android, Mac OS, Windows, etc. is a huge pain. But what do all platforms have in common? They can all run Chrome, and Chrome can run portable but slow code. So what do developers do? Developers write applications as standalone web pages and bundle a whole copy of the Chrome browser to view that web page. The application now takes hundreds of megabytes of storage, eats RAM like candy, and every interaction is massively slowed down because it has to go through so many layers. The address bar is hidden and the right-click menu is replaced, but it's still a web browser under the hood. They are basically saving developer time by wasting your time and device resources. That's a big reason why modern applications teams, Discord, Spotify, etc. feel so slow. Technically Chromium, since it's missing some features like Google account login. The most popular framework that uses this technique is Electron. Story 26 Most IT departments are tragically understaffed, so they're not making you wait on your request for fun. Unless you're into them, then they're definitely making you wait for fun. They're also laughing about it. If you do want your request moved to the top of the queue with some regularity, a box of donuts left in the IT department once or twice a year is usually all ITLL take. Also not being an Story 27 Former local journalist here. If you want to know something about your town or pretty much anything locally, or find something hinky that you want investigated, just call or email them and ask what's happening with that insert weird item in city budget shutdown road cop who got fired. When I was off deadline, I actually loved fielding these questions. They were mainly from old people and pretty much worked as customer service for the city a lot. I directed people to local programs that would help them. I confirmed the start and proposed end dates of construction, and I told people what companies had pulled permits to build that new restaurant on Main Street. Local journalists have a wealth of knowledge in all departments of what is going on in your city, because they drift between one or the other frequently, and we ask the other reporters in the cubicle next to us, too. They're your tour guides, social workers, watchdogs and public defenders if you just ask them. They aren't doing it for the money cries and past due bills. They're doing it for the love of their community. They all really embrace the localism aesthetic. I guess this is sort of a not supposed to find out thing because if everyone did it, they'd never get their other work done. Story 28. As a teacher, set limits with devices and instill a love of reading your children. Students who read as a hobby almost always get good grades and succeed in school and beyond. Story 29. Electric guitars made out of fancy expensive will sound exactly the same as guitars made out of cheap. The electronic system is what makes electric guitars sound different from one another. Not the fancy flamed maple top. It's pure aesthetics. Story 30. I'm a teacher. You can learn anything you want now from the internet if you have the willpower. Teaching continues to exist because most humans learn best with someone to hold them accountable and human interaction. That said, especially with YouTube, if you have a little patience and aren't afraid of trial and error, you can literally learn anything. Add, as many of you pointed out, plenty of room for nuance, and I am speaking very generally. But very interesting discussion, so thank you all. There's probably a balance to be made between situations where we can use our own intrinsic motivation to learn and the moments we recognize our needs for an experienced person in the subject to motivate us and bounce ideas off of. I do sometimes feel a bit guilty that I could be learning literally anything I want and am scrolling Reddit, guilty. I am the reason for my own job security. I also need the accountability at times. Story 31. Call the nurse line on the back of your insurance card before you go to the ER. If the nurse tells you to go to the ER, insurance should have to bill as a covered claim. If the nurse does not recommend ER and you still go, big bill. Story 32. I don't work there anymore, but I used to work for cable internet ISP. You weren't supposed to know this, but when customers complained about slow hardwired speeds, we'd show up and pretend to do something, knowing full well that the issue was our nodes being oversaturated everywhere, but we would never tell you. We eventually introduced something called Power Boost to mask the problem by skewing speed tests. Your first 5 to 20 seconds would be uncapped bandwidth, and you would think you were getting a quality product when you weren't. Story 33. Don't buy the first or last year of a car. First year they're still working out the bugs in the manufacturing process, and the last year they're focused on getting the new model processes working and less attention on the outgoing model. The very best year is the mid-cycle refresh. Processes should be stable by then, and the refreshed exterior are such minor tweaks from a manufacturing perspective it's not affecting quality, and as a perk it usually looks better than the original. Former automotive body process engineer. Edit. I'm getting asked a lot as to why the last year would be bad. Yes, the large problems have been worked out, but in manufacturing there will always be variability that is monitored and either adjusted where the part is made, the parts themselves or the assembly jig to keep things within tolerances. Imagine you have playing cards and you have 3 buddies with hole punches making a hole in the same spot in each card individually with different suppliers and equipment, and you have a time limit on how long it takes to make their punch. Over time I'll guarantee, even with a jig they will start to vary. Punch gets worn out. Your card vendor this week sent cardstock that's slightly thicker than the others. Humidity at friend 3's location caused the cards to swell in a model change year. The folks that monitor and adjust for variability have tasks for the new model that takes their full attention away from the current model and splits it up. They're still the same highly qualified people as they were yesterday, but they're being pulled in more directions now. Where I worked we had one ultra-accurate scanner to measure the entire body to find variability. Guess who got priority on the table? I've got 3 portable units to measure smaller parts out on the floor. One's at a vendor location tracking down a supplier problem, the other is figuring out why an A-pillar inner panel in the new model is twisted, and I get the shitty one to figure out why the dog leg on the outer panel doesn't align well with the striker plate. Anyhow, that's why the last year should be avoided in most cases. These are all generalizations that always have an exception or 3. Story 34. When IT or tech support asks you to restart your computer, it could be to apply a fix they made in the back end, or it could be buying them time for any number of reasons. 1. They applied a fix and it just takes time to sync up. The reboot just prevents the awkward silence of waiting. 2. They're not sure what the problem or solution is, so they're hoping a reboot fixes it. If not, 3, they're buying time to think or research. Oh, and if you say that you've already restarted, do yourself a favor and follow their instructions. After all, you called them for help. If you didn't want or need their help, you wouldn't have called. Disclaimer: this does not apply to all techs or interactions with same. Story 35. Customer is a bit of a stretch here, but I work on federally funded research, so in a way my customer is the tax-paying public. Universities take up to 50% of all federal grants as overhead. Half of the money the NIH sends for cancer research or vaccine studies instead lines the pockets of talentless administrators. Then when we at long last finish our experiments and analysis, we need to pay journals to host our work, so the people pay them to read our work. We don't see a cent. Finally, when that's all said and done after admin cuts budgets in half to pay the football coach, and the journal charges us another $10K for editors who they didn't pay, it goes to the pharma companies and hospitals who take this federally funded work and sell it back to the taxpayer. Research is a scam. Everyone except the admin of universities, journals and hospitals suffer. If you have a child or friend who wants to go into science, tell them it's not worth it. Have it as a hobby, not a job. Story 36. Something no one seems to understand in 2024. Treat the customer service representative kindly. Everything I originally stated afterwards has been redacted because Redditors love to miss the point. Be kind. The end. Story 37. I'm a singer, and I book a lot of weddings, corporate general gigs. If you come to me directly rather going through an agency, I can plan and run all the music, whether you want just me and a guitar to full band and DJ for after party. It can literally save you thousands. Some agencies put a 40 to 60 markup on my services, and I ask them for more than I'd charge someone privately. It's crazy. If you're looking for entertainment, try and contact direct. Story 38. You don't have to buy solar panels from some door knocker for $20K to $30K. There is absolutely nothing magical or financially superior about what they do. You can just buy the parts, or a kit, and hire an electrician to install it for about half the retail price. Story 39. Bartender here. If you're at an event with an open bar or something similar, tip 20 cash on your first drink and introduce yourself to your bartender if it isn't crazy busy. Give them the cash and say some variation on "Hey X, good to meet you. My name's Mike. I'm going to be drinking your drink order all night. Thanks for taking care of us at this event. Guarantees good service. Skipping the line, etc." Story 40. I used to work in credit cards. If you disputed a charge for less than $75 not as fraud, we would just credit you the money. Most of the time we wouldn't even investigate it past the initial chargeback. If we didn't win the case, you still got your money back. However, if we find out you figured this out, we would stop giving you the credit unless we won. We've even closed accounts that took advantage of it. But if you want your money back as a one-time thing or whatever, you be fine. Story 41. I work for an airline. I manage the development of the system our call center agents use. Please and thank you will unlock magical doors of help when you're on the phone with the agents or are at the airport dealing with airport staff. Simple politeness no longer seems to exist in these interactions. I've shadowed agents to understand how they use what my teams develop, and I can count on two hands in the 150 to 200 calls I've listened into over the last year, where the caller was polite and acted decently towards the other human on the other end of the line. Story 42. If you're hurt, ill, and in a lot of pain, the provider will often ask where you're at on the pain scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the worst pain of your life. Don't ever say 10 for whatever reason. It loses your credibility or something and makes it seem like you're hamming up your pain level. Instead, say 7 to 9. Those are all still very real pain levels and make it seem more reasonable. Providers are very likely to alleviate these levels of pain. I don't know why this is. As a paramedic, it also works on me. Maybe it's because drug seekers will often say 1010, and so I'm conditioned to thinking that response is nonsense. Story 43. IT support. You can fix 90 of your problems by turning hardware off and on again. Also, if you're nice to us instead of being horrible, we will fix your problem faster. IMO customer support is not paid enough for all that they have to deal with. Customers are very rude through the telephone. Story 44. If you like to book guided tours while you travel, and you like to do it on Viator, TripAdvisor or Expedia, you should know that those third-party reselling sites take 22 to 25 of the booking price for themselves. When local tour companies like mine put our tour offerings on their sites, we agree to give the sites the lowest price. We cannot post a lower price anywhere, because if it's discovered that we do, we will be removed from the platforms. Tour companies like mine will jump to give you a 10 to 15 discount if you call us and mention you were looking to book via Viator, TripAdvisor, or Expedia. You save 10, we recoup the potential 10 to 15 that those sites would have taken, and everybody wins. Story 45. At GameStop, if you get a pre-owned controller and get the warranty, you can come back a year later, get a fresh pre-owned controller and just have to pay the warranty cost again. This used to work with new controllers, but the policy changed. Story 46. You can and should get your kid an evaluation for learning disabilities if there is any potential. Many parents want to avoid potential stigma, but depending on your school district they might not tell you because they don't want to increase their SPED caseload. Story 47. I work for a nationwide steel supply company. We sell the same plate of steel sometimes up to 6 or 7 times. What do I mean by that? Say you need a ring of steel that is 5 feet in outer diameter and 4 feet inner diameter, that leaves 4 feet in the middle being cut out of it. Well, you're not just buying the ring. You're buying the whole piece of steel used to cut that ring out of. The piece that comes out from the middle and the corners are called drops. If you don't request we ship the drop to you, then we do not. You get a ring and we get a 4-foot circle of steel to sell again or multiple times if we can keep cutting it. Story 48. I'm a janitor. Did you know you can move 2 feet to your left and actually get trash in the trash can? Most office workers don't know this, it seems. I cannot count how many snot-filled Kleenexes and empty food wrappers I find near a trash can but not in it. Story 49. Accounting is called a sticky business because we don't lose clients often. Unless we are terrible, we continually raise rates and overcharge because we know clients will just stay with the same person they know, rather than search around. It may be hard to evaluate who is a bad versus good versus great accountant, but that won't matter unless you have a difficult situation or specialized work to be done. What matters is you might find an accountant willing to do the same work for a lot cheaper, if you can just put in a little extra time to ask them to ballpark their rates. Think of it this way: people regularly go to different grocery stores, convenience stores and gas station marts to save a few dollars on things like eggs, candy or milk. I found eggs for $1.50 when they're normally $2.50 is some big accomplishment. What if you found an accountant willing to do your work for $3,000 instead of $5,000? Isn't that worth a few more calls and meetings that you would gladly use time on to find cheaper eggs? Story 50. Telemarketer shush. It puts food on the table. If you say put me on your do not call list, or take me off your calling list, and if the company is based in the USA, they are legally obligated to take your number off the list of numbers they call. Story 51. Delivery driver. Here, not much of a hack, but loads of people don't seem to know this. If you create an account with a courier who's delivering your parcel, when logged in you can set up a safe place where we can deliver your parcel to if you're not at home. Well, follow the instructions and leave it wherever you want us to within reason. Of course you can probably also do it from the tracking link, but with an account it'll be set up for every single delivery to your address automatically, makes both our lives an awful lot easier. Story 52. I work in mental health and regular exercise has been proven to have higher efficacy than antidepressant medications, therapy, microdosing, etc. for improving mood and alleviating symptoms of depression and anxiety. Exercise is king. I shout this as much as possible, of course, but just saying edit after reply hostility. My intention was to simply share the data. As someone diagnosed with MDD many years back, I empathize with the struggle for some of us to even get out of bed. Creating a new movement routine from a variety of mental health states can feel nearly impossible. Some clients take a hybrid approach and use medication to help jumpstart others' goals like exercise. And lastly, the monoamine theory of depression is just that, a theory. It seems not all of us are helped by modulating serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. It's always valuable to consider other sources like hormones, vitamin D, diet, hydration. 1 to 2 ounces per day per pound of body weight. Regarding biological causes, if when present, some causes appear to be related to the overproduction of glutamate for not just depression but OCD. Some find relief utilizing ketamine therapy when treatment resistance for monoamine approach. Specific data: placebos have been shown to be 30 to 50 effective against depression. Antidepressants have been shown to be 50 to 70 effective, although it's important to note that there have been criticisms of past studies and even books authored on this topic. Exercise meta-studies have indicated about 50 reduction in symptoms, with 1999 Duke Smile study measuring 60 to 75 after 16 weeks of aerobic exercise, about 3 sessions per week. In specific studies under optimal conditions, efficacy rates as high as 80 have been reported. Exercise seems to work best for mild-moderate depression, but impressive data has been reported for MDD as well. Story 53. Animal medicine. Just because you put clothes on your pet doesn't make him your child. Please don't spend more money than you can afford. Even if we manage to get your 14-year-old dog through cancer, you still have a 14-year-old dog. You should not make your pet suffer because you feel sad. Fido isn't enjoying life, let him go. Story 54. If you have a hotel reservation arriving tomorrow, but with a 2-day cancellation policy, and you have to cancel, reschedule it instead for a week out, then later, call back and cancel since you're outside of the policy. Story 55. If you're in Canada and have a retail trading account, and want to convert CDN cash to US, depending on the urgency of the conversion, if you don't need it now, and it is a significant amount, don't just convert it over, and pay your bank between 1.5 to 3 on the exchange DLR and DLR, your one-day settlement securities. DLR is CDN DLR. Use US currency by the DLR, next business day, transfer it to the US side of your account, sell DLR, you in the US account, it takes the DLR and covers, that way you only pay whatever your commission is on the buy-sell. You don't pay the conversion rate. As I'm typing this, spot rate on the market is 1.36, my firm is charging 1.39 if you just transfer over directly. Anything that is going to cost you less than $20 on exchange rate, go ahead and just transfer over, but if you are transferring, i.e. 10,000 CDN to US, there's a difference of $280. If you are planning ahead by the DLR, then transfer it over on settlement, sell the DLR. You only pay the commission of $20 on the buy-sell. You're also looking at a 3-day movement. If it's a rush, sucks to be you pay the extra rate. If you have a margin account, you can do a true Norbert's gambit and buy today, initiate the transfer, and put the sell order today, so that it cuts a day out by settles, gets transferred immediately, to cover the sell that settles the same day. But most retail outlets require you to do this through their phone brokers, so you have to pay the broker rate on the one side of the transaction, so it's more expensive. They do this to try to encourage you to do the transfer manually yourself in your account, so that they make the $280 off you. It pays to plan. Story 56. We design parts for appliances to break in 5 years. We can make them better, but the OEM doesn't want to pay for it. We used to make the same part last 15 years. Story 57. I don't work there. This can be a hack to get out of paying a towing fee. I had my car towed to a yard because I stupidly thought it was a different day where I could park. Got my car towed, aware it's my fault, so I might as well make this situation a fun one. Walked into the office with a customer already screaming at the front desk. Waited a whole 5 minutes for them to finish and they finally left. Front desk was just expressionless and were clearly used to it. I came up with a bright face and said, "So if I scream like that, will there be a chance I don't have to pay for the towing? They all cracked up laughing and we all just went along the convo. Front desk stamped the receipt in front of me and just said, "Just read the signs next time, bud. We got you for now." Didn't expect this, but felt so boss when I left. Story 58. Many online retailers have what's called cart abandonment marketing strategies. If you put something in your cart and then don't check out, you'll likely receive an email or some kind of messaging with a discount code to incentivize conversion. If you're gonna buy something online, always at least try adding to your cart and leaving first before buying. Story 59. Former movie theater manager. As long as you purchase something and don't cause a fuss, you can see multiple movies and no one cares. It's only an issue if you cause an issue and we need the concessions. Also, we all know that you sneak stuff, and most impressive I've seen, a full rotisserie chicken and a box of wine snuck into Magic Mike. It's okay as long as you don't cause a scene and again buy something, sneak in that candy, buy the popcorn. Story 60. If you're in credit card debt, a lot of companies will allow you to negotiate a better interest rate if you agree to start making payments. You'll save a ton of money on interest and your credit score won't take a hit for missing a payment. It will likely increase your credit utilization, but that's just temporary and isn't as bad. I was out of work for a bit due to medical reasons and put my life on a credit card that is what they are for after all. I let my card go overdue, called in and told them the situation and said I couldn't afford the minimum payments. They set me up with lower payments with an interest rate that was like April 15th lower than it would have been if I just let it sit on my card. Story 61. For the US only, AccuWeather, along with a vast myriad weather apps, really just uses data provided for free by the Nation Weather Service. Oh sure, they have forecasters, but no way do they have enough for every county and forecast. Most really just give overall forecasts for general areas. Instead of saying, "My app is more accurate," actually go find your local NWS office, and you can find a more specific forecast for your area that will tend to be more accurate overall. And remember, what the NWS literally gives away for free these companies want to monetize and have you pay subscription fees for what already is free weather data. Edit got messaged a cool question regarding why your local NWS would be more accurate. A NWS office will have employees from that region who focus not just on synoptic large-scale forecasting, but also local patterns and their effect on weather that you just cannot get from a lot of the paid apps. A majority of the apps will literally just take the data from a single weather model, while NWS uses what are called ensembles that give multiple outputs that they can use to not only analyze the agreed-upon patterns, but deduce the most likely outcome before making an official forecast. In the immortal words of the great Bill Paxton, those apps are in it for the money, not the science.